Oh, absolutely. I mean, and that's definitely they have a lot of different tools in their belt in regards to their skill set. But given that opportunity to do that part of it, it's where you shine, and that's where those guys are totally different than a lot of other guys, and that's what you want. You want those erasers, to be able to play like that and play with that confidence, and it just makes everybody else's job easier. Yeah. Yeah, they. I definitely say it's starting to trend that direction. Uh, with the communication and things of that sort. Um, it's just when you're changing the culture, that's a part of it. I was listening to a speaker. I was telling one of the coaches this today. I had an opportunity to listen to a speaker one time, and one of the most challenging things to change is a mentality. So you want to make sure in doing that, you reaffirm that it's okay to do this. It's okay to be this way, and you can drive this car. You can be the guy that's quarterbacking it and talking this way. So it puts the onus on everybody in regards to how they study, how they prepare to communicate, and just holds them to be accountable. So I think it's trending in the right direction. I think it's grown tremendously. I think it's grown tremendously. You know, it's been good and it's been a joy to see. It's there's a scripture that talks about where you separate the wheat from the tare, and you're starting to see that wheat just kind of separate itself. Those guys are talking, continuity is being developed, and things of that sort, and it's growing. We still hadn't gotten there just yet, but I think we're trending in the right direction. So that's a plus.
When you're developing, mentoring someone like Isaiah, has just incredible talent, but maybe not the maturity or habits that he eventually will probably have. What are the keys in a relationship like that, and what are your recommendations on it?
It's just about investment. It's about investment. I think it's a two-way street. Any relationship is a two-way street. Dated my wife in high school. And you put the time into it. To make them be able to commit to it. And the thing is, there's no two people the same. Isaiah's background is a lot like mine. Coming up. So it's about just being able to trust and you just got to invest time into people, and they gotta see that you care. They gotta see that you care. I always tell people now, this is this generation. And I'm not like just too far from it, but if you look at it, it's not the faith-driven situation. Everything's accessible in regards to how they get information. Correct. So with that being said, you gotta show them. When you show them, they can match it up. Oh, this is what he said, and they'll match your actions up to your words, not your words up to your action. And that's what it's been with him.
So, you mentioned some of the background, but what aspects, and then how much does that help him attach to you in terms of pilot?
I think it's just one of those situations when you have a talented individual that comes in, um, and and the this is the part of it that he, along with several others, that I've had here and that I've had in the past, they'll have to see. Um, they got to see the people that help them versus the people that aren't. People that are like just trying to pull something from them. So that's one of those dynamics. Um, that he's had to see, and he's always, like I told you before, he's been a joy to be around. Um, you can see him; he loves football. So I think it's one of the things that we got to understand. Just coming in, maturity is a process. It's an eternal process too. You know what I mean? So yeah, that's how I look at that.
You look at obviously UCLA, volleyball, and you see what their receivers do, what they can do in the passing game. It's really got to match up with the challenges.
Yeah, I think those guys do a really good job out there on the perimeter, and even with their backs, getting the ball to those guys as well. Um, Chip has always been a very innovative guy. Um, you know, just given the area I come from in regards to coaching, I'm used to seeing tempo. I'm used to seeing that. That's not uncommon to me. um, but I think he does a really good job, and those guys do a really good job preparing their young men to go out and play. Um, and in regards to the other part, how we match up, I feel like we match up really well. I like what we do, and we just got to focus on us. I've always went into games and just perfected us, perfect myself, perfect, those dynamics. And once you're the best version of yourself, you can expect great things to happen. So that's how I always look at it. And that's what we focus on. That's our expectation, that's our mentality.
Is it about their how we deal with the play actions that enable them to get defenders to run on spaces?
Um, Probably at times you just see them do with their emotions that they do. And it's like I said, it's the tempo. Tempo at times will just discourage people. As they start going fast, it's somewhat chaotic to a lot of people. But what we got to realize is the clock is on them. It's not on us. The clock is on those guys. So and it has those guys, reduce their menu as well. They can only do so many things. So I think that works to the advantage of the defense once you've been around it. You know what I mean? And that's what I've grown up to see, just being around those type of offensive systems.
You guys have like a ton of big plays, like at Stanford is very like Colorado, you have a couple lapses.
Yeah.
What are the keys to making sure that you guys are sound in that regard?
Just communication, having eyes. Guys have got to be disciplined. You know, guys. I just had a talk with the guys post practice. We got to stay humble. All right. Got a term that I use from an old coaching friend of mine. Don't get ink poisoned. Don't get to reading a lot of clippings about yourself and feeling like you've arrived. You got to have that same hunger that you had prior to. So there's levels of humility that you have to have, and that's a part of it. Staying humble, having your eyes in the right place, just doing your job, trusting the people in front of you, behind you, next to you, doing all of those dynamics. And I know once you do those things, great things happen. And like I always say, you just win every play one play at a time. And once we do that, that's how you develop consistent progression. And that's what the coaching point is going to continue to be. Don't try to go do too much. Don't try to just do your job and win every play one play at a time. Even if your name doesn't get called, do your job one play at a time. That's what it's about. Ed is seen if there's a word that I use to define him, it's perseverance. He's been definitely a guy that's just put his head down, worked hard, doesn't complain, and he's starting to have some success. He did a really good job the first game of the season as well. So I just see a guy that continues to come in and work, wants to get better, and as he's starting to see it, again, just got to continue to stay humble himself, continue to work like you were prior to the success starting to happen. And I think he'll continue to grow. I think the sky's the limit for him as well. I think the position change, number one, has been good for him. He's been in a situation where he's saying he's entrusted. I think he's got to understand what it is that he's able to do and try to not do too much. Just kind of allow things to happen. Don't go force plays. He's getting older, and that's a great thing for him to do. But in regards to getting older, you've seen some things happen, and then the times where you hadn't been able to see him, just being able to identify what's going on out there on the field, asking the right questions. And I always tell him, play to your personality. Play to your personality. This is what you're able to do now. play to your personality. So I think that's a big thing. I think that we're doing a good job of putting him in those positions to where he can do those things. So he just gotta, like all of them, I'm always say, continue to stay humble, keep working, because there are gonna be those plays, where you have questions like, what do I do in this regard, and just be able to weather the storm. Uh, and like one of my great friends always said, he said, stay green. You don't ever want to be in a situation where you're ripe. You want to stay green, stay green. The ripe things, the next level of that is a rot. So, I want those guys to be able to stay green so they can continue to grow. And he's got to continue to do that part of it right there so he can continue to ascend and go in the right direction.
Coach, like in film study preparation, things like that, UCLA skill players that what has there been a couple guys that have stood out, a couple points that have come up?
From UCLA? I mean, I think they all have they have a good group overall. The quarterback has been really good. He reminds me of a guy that I've seen in the past. I think he does a good job there. I think they do a good job up front. I think there's not one guy, and I think what they do schematically just allows those guys to be able to have success. And I think this is how long has Coach Kelly been there? I was about to say 5 years at least. So what you're seeing right now is those guys continue to grow in that system. And that's a plus. You want to have stability in situations where you can grow something. I'm a country boy at heart, right? I don't think you can plant a seed and expect it to grow within a year. So I think right now you're just starting to see the fruits of what it is that he's done from when he first started there, and those guys are all starting to grow. And I think the biggest thing he's done is just created culture there, which takes time, and you're starting to see different players perform well given the culture that's been created. And I think that's culture is everything to me. It's everything, and it's just like that mentality I talked about a little bit earlier. You know what I mean? It's it's the toughest thing to change, but once it does, and you get that buy-in, you start to see the fruits like you're seeing right now with those guys, and those guys are playing well individually and collectively.